All right, looks like it's recording now. Good morning, everybody. Anthony Amaral from the Kent Washington Association of Realtors Education Board. Today, Bob Smith of RJ Smith Construction will be presenting What Lies Beneath. Bob is, I gotta clear my screen here, I'm sorry. Continue, thank you. Bob owns and operates RJ Smith, which was established in 2004 with his wife Danielle. He specialized in conventional septic system designs and installation, along with alternative and experimental technologies. They also provide septic repairs as well as site work and underground utility installation. So I give way to Bob to introduce himself and to complete his presentation. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Anthony. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for having me. I'm going to make this as least stressful as possible. Once again, my name is Bob Smith. I own and operate RJ Smith Construction. I'm a septic designer and installer based out of Warwick, Rhode Island. I did a quick little PowerPoint presentation and just I went over a basic conventional septic system design and installation. If anybody has any questions, obviously answer them in the chat, or Anthony, you can stop me and tell me, somebody's got a question, that'd be great. But I'd like to start off right here with the PowerPoint. So once again, as Anthony said, I've been established since 2004. My wife Danielle and I work hand in hand together. She does she pretty much organizes my life while I run around like a madman all day. So I got to thank her for that. Our company, this is who we are. We're a licensed septic installer with the state of Rhode Island. I'm a Class 1 septic designer, which falls under the repairs where all these cesspool conversions are. This is somebody you'd want to call. I can come in, get all the testing done, get the design in, get a plan, and go with the process. I also have an underground utility license, so I could do sewer and water work along with any kind of site work. I'm a Rhode Island general contractor. We're supposed to be. We specialize in septic design, installation, and repair, sewer and water installations mainly. So with that, where to start? I put some helpful links out here all through Rhode Island DEM's website. The first one is just their wastewater page, which has all the links for the paperwork, the processes. That's really my go-to as to what I'm getting for paperwork or anything else. The next one is their Septic Smart. It's a program funded through the EPA where they just tell you how to treat the septic systems. What you can put down there, what you can't put down there, how many times a year you should pump it, which is usually depending on the amount of people that are there, water consumption. It's usually annually. I know they say every 2 years, but it wouldn't hurt to do it once a year. When you change your smoke detectors, in the spring, have your system pumped out. The next link is the rules and regulations. This is my Bible. This is what I have to follow in order to design a plan. It lists the soil classifications, what size drain field you would need based on what you have for soil and a water table there. It lists the types of septic systems that can go in there. It also lists the setbacks. A lot of houses with wells, you have to maintain 100-foot distance between the drain field and the
over 10 offers in and make every single time. But because I stay persistent with them, we've get planned.
And then the next one is the link on the cesspool phase out. It's been established since 2015. The rule is basically if there's a house there, Anthony said they give you 2 months, but DEM is basically telling you need a year after closing or before closing to get this cesspool out of service and in service with a new septic system. So with these links, I don't know if you can click on them off this page, but if anybody has any questions, my email and phone number will be on them. I'll be glad to send them out to you.
Bob, and I'll just follow up on that. So it's the lending standpoint is generally that within any property that has a cesspool where the state states that you can have up to a year to complete, lending usually wants to have an escrow holdback for whatever those funds are to be done in about a 2-month window following the closing date, if it's not done previous to that.
Yep. Okay. The next is a septic system. What is a septic system? So what the state considers a septic system is an OWTS, which is just on-site wastewater treatment system. It is a living and breathing thing. So it treats, it separates the solids from the liquids in the tank. Liquids go out into the distribution box and gets discharged into the drain field, which brings a cleaner water into the groundwater, which is ultimately what the goal is to get a healthier groundwater, healthy wells, and everything else. So that is it. It's on-site wastewater treatment system. There's different types of systems. There's tons of them out there based on what they have for soils. The state is very complex in what they have for soil. The northern part of the state, it could be just clear, clean gravel with no water table. 100 feet down the road, you could have a ledge pile where you're going to be hammering and there's impervious ground you got to go through. Where I live in Warwick, it's either ledge or beach sand, and the water table fluctuates. So the conventional systems are predominantly used the most, with the exception of obviously the coastal areas, wet areas where you have a really bad water table where it's high. You get flooded basements. Usually, there's a conventional system won't fit in there. There are some parameters you got to follow. You got to have plenty of room to install. They do give you setbacks off the property lines. They're very DEM is very strict on maintaining 100 feet between the wells and a drain field right here. This is a precast galleys that I put in South Kingstown. It was all clean gravel that we had there, and I don't even think they gave me a water table because there was none. So those are about 2 feet high. They sit on either 1 to 2 feet of stone. They're very. This was built over a driveway, so this was built knowing that traffic was going to be driven over it. So the conventional systems, they're easy to moderate excavation conditions. Like I said, the state is very different in soils here. I could have beach sand or complete ledge. So it all depends on what we have there. They're designed to have the wastewater and the seasonal high water table, which is the elevation that we look for in our soil evaluations, to be separated by at least 3 feet. This gives the treatment, so it's a clean discharge of water into the ground. We have to maintain 3 feet, at least 3 feet, between that and that level. Some may require pump vaults to optimize this separation. If there's an uphill grade in a house that we got to put a leach field into, sometimes we do have to add pumps to just pump the water up to the drain fields. And for a conventional system, a class 1 designer like myself and a class 2 and 3 designer can design these. These are predominantly it's all of what I do. I know the critical resource areas that DEM has, which is all basically the coastal areas, the Narrow River watershed. There's a big area, it's on their website. Because it discharges into the Narrow River, they would require an advanced system, which is an alternative or experimental system. This is where you see these these big boxes made out of 6x6s with stone that stick 3 feet out of the ground. They're used in critical resource areas or areas where there's very, if you have a very bad drainage, if you're in clay, if you're in ledge, these, these are the very pricey and crazy systems that you see. They're basically moderate to difficult excavation areas, high water table areas, requires pumps, filters, and pre-treatment and denitrification. This is all treated within the tank. And this little green rectangular pod right here, that's a filter. So everything gets recirculated between the filter and the tank, and then discharged into either a drain field or, like I said, one of these 6x6 timber boxes. They're what class 2 and class 3 designers would have to do. Obviously, this is beyond my license capabilities here, but I'm also licensed to install these. So I do quite a bit of these as well. Where to start the process? So it's time to replace a field outs or a cesspool. So you guys have, a septic inspection. There's a cesspool there. Obviously, we got to figure out, we got to upgrade that. Or if somebody had just a neglected system, never pumped it, they were putting bacon grease or, washing paint thinner down there, where do we start the process? So as for you guys, you'd contact a septic designer and installer, like myself, schedule a meeting, look at the site, do some research. If there's a system in the ground already, you can research that, and there might be a plan online you could find. If not, or if there's just a cesspool, we would have to start from scratch. So from here, we'd have to schedule a soil evaluation, a test hole. I'll show up. The regional inspector for DEM in that area, I have to schedule a meeting with them. They'll come and look, read the soil, find that water table level, and that's where we could start our plan from. This is where the other conversation is, the price difference between a conventional system and a, an experimental system is pretty much double. So if we have room where a conventional system will fit, good, we can go forward. If not, this is where we'll have to, discuss with a class 2 or higher designer and go from there. After our soil test and test hole is done, I could shoot my elevations, draft a design, fill the permit out, and submit for DEM approval. That takes the turnaround time for DEM. Once I submit a plan, it's going to take me usually within a week of the test hole to get a plan submitted, just to draw it and put all my information together. Once DEM has it, it takes between 2 and 4 weeks to get the approved plan back. I know they are very busy. They're busy just like everybody else. Sometimes it might get there sooner. Sometimes it might be a little later, but it's usually between that 2 to 4 week window. And then once we have that, that's where we can do the installation, our inspection schedules, and then the certificate of construction and the conformance letter that you guys need for the closings. So here's a quick breakdown of test hole soil evaluation. This is one I did in Potawatomi back in the fall. It's just, I show up, I set my laser up, I read the where the sewer comes in on the house. I find the water line, whether it's a public water or a well. I'll dig a 5-foot hole in the yard. DEM will come by, take their measurements, tell me what I can design the system to be. And then obviously I'll have to punch the hole down as deep as I can, just to see if there's any impervious ledge or what is actually underneath the system that's going to be put there. So this is the first process where, I dig a giant hole in somebody's yard and leave a mess when I leave. I'll try to keep it as clean as possible, but the grass is never going to grow back until I'm done with the system. So the survey and design, this is the last one I just submitted. I don't have to do any AutoCAD systems. I just have to keep it to scale. I draw everything on just regular computer paper and an engineer scale and triangles. I went to, I broke it down to a very basic level. This is a 2-bedroom house in Coventry, I believe, with a failed septic system. It did not have a cesspool. So we researched the property and found that there was a system built in 1989, and I have to build it pretty much in an area of this yard where I can't disrupt the old system. So I got to keep a 5-foot over dig around everything. That's pretty much what I submitted. I'm still waiting for an approval on this too. So, and I submitted it last week. So I'll probably next week, maybe the week after, I'll see it, with the holiday being Monday.
Bob, Michelle asked, so does the septic system usually go in the same spot as the cesspool was in? Or they have to be separated?
Michelle, the septic system, wherever the cesspool is, I try to put the tank where the cesspool is, because that's where the line is. You know, if there has to be a plumbing change to optimize that 3-foot separation, chances are the tank's going to go where the cesspool is. But sometimes I do. Sometimes you know, we just abandon the cesspool. If there's room on the other side of the property, we'll abandon the cesspool. We'll have it pumped out and fill it with gravel. And that it just depends on what you have. I mean, if the room fits, we'll try to stay away from it. But if sometimes, you know, I have to put the tank right where the cesspool is. And in that case, if we do, that's where, you know, we have to dig everything to a clean soil. You know, however deep the cesspool is, we probably got to go like 5 feet below that to pull all that saturated, dark, smelly soil out and replace it with clean septic gravel. So hopefully that answers your question. But yeah, no, it depends. If there's room, yes, we'll go around it. But if not, sometimes, you know, we're putting it right over where it was.
I would think that generally speaking, with doing so, you're keeping the lines still coming in, so you're not going to have to put new lines into the house too as well.
Well, I'd say 90% of the time we're using the same line coming out. We'll cut it right at the foundation. Obviously, new PVC from the foundation to the tank. But there are times where, you know, we'll have to, you know, raise the plumbing or change the plumbing, which is unfortunately sometimes what we have to do. A lot of times, if there's a walkout basement, and there's a basement bathroom, we can pick up the existing line coming out. But if it's not a walkout, say there's a bulkhead, but there's a below grade bathroom, we have to we have to change the plumbing. So,
Follow-up question by Michelle. She said, thank you, first of all. And then
yep.
Actually, so the cesspool tank doesn't actually have to be removed from the ground. It can just be filled in with clean soil.
The cesspool, it's not a tank. It's just it's a deep stone, like honeycomb that they've built. It's pretty impressive how they actually built these things years ago, without equipment. And it's just a stone chamber that you know, everything goes in there, and there's no treatment. There's no, you know, the solids go in there with the liquids, and it just never, you know, the solids never separated, and there was no treatment. So it was just, you know, untreated wastewater being discharged into the groundwater. So it's not necessarily a tank. It's just more or less it's more or less a stone galley.
Like essentially a stone coffee filter.
Pretty much, it's a
right.
dry well. It's a giant dry well. There are some cesspools that are metal. It looked like you know, somebody might have taken an old oil drum and cut it in half and put it upside down. But the cesspools do have to be filled in. They don't want these things around. I can't just pump it out and abandon it open. They're afraid of, you know, it collapsing or somebody falling into it. So I cannot leave the property without having these things filled in. So that, I hope that answered your question. So then the next thing here is the obviously the survey and design, the permit application. This is I just took a picture of the blank permit here. this is what I'll submit to DEM, has all the information, the site information, the owner information, the application history, if there was a previous system on the property versus a cesspool. How did we determine our soil classifications, our water table elevations? And then the next one is the design information. This is just the math equation that I'll come up with all the data that I've collected from the soil evaluation. It'll break down, how many gallons is the tank, how big of a drain field area we're going to have to go on, and so on and so forth. These are based, the size of your drain field, I should have said earlier, is all based on bedroom. It's not based on bathroom occupancy. It's all based on bedrooms. They give you 115 gallons per day per bedroom. So that's what I'll use along with my soil evaluation to break down what we need. Typically, a 3-bedroom house is a 1,000-gallon tank. A 4-bedroom or higher is a 1,500-gallon tank, and they go up to 5,000 gallons based on the size of the house. But everything is based on bedrooms. So that's what the first thing I'll ask when somebody calls me about a plan is how many bedrooms is in the house. So the next thing is just my information, my license information, and then this last section right here, which says permit approval. This is where DEM will sign they approved it or denied it. They won't deny it. I mean, obviously there's wiggle room here. It just has to be based on the rules from that link that I sent you. So as long as it's built within the rules, you won't have a problem. That'll also list their inspection schedule. Usually they want a bottom inspection when you dig out the leach field, and then they want a cover inspection. So because it's been busy, they've been waiving things, but I'd expect every time to have a couple inspections. And then there was Paul, there was another question about propane gas line over a septic pipe. That it's crazy. The gas lines, the marks are right on the money. You usually have to keep a foot difference between any utility, just whether it's gas, water, or anything. A gas line over a septic line is not a big deal. Usually, National Grid's good for tunneling their lines in and tunneling right through a sewer line. So, we'll replace those easily. The pipe was 5 foot down and the gas line was supposed to be 18 inches down, but we'll cross over the top of the pipe. Yes, that's as long as there's separation, they can cross. One thing about utilities is also if it's a water line, whether it's a well line or a public service line for a house, anytime those cross a sewer pipe, it has to be sleeved. So we have to, maintain that there'll be no break, there'll be no cross contamination with you don't want to get sewage into a water service or a well. So with the exception of gas, it's very you could cross a gas line, but if it's a water line crossing a sewer line or vice versa, the water line does have to be sleeved. And that's, I believe, 15 feet in each direction. So if it's a 3/4 inch water, we got to put a 4-inch pipe and seal it on both ends. That way there's no infiltration. There'll be no cross contamination.
I have a question in regards to the bedroom count and how it's utilized in the property. Is the gallon usage per room equivalent to, say, 1 or 2 people in it?
They will not specify that. It's just based on bedroom. I'm pretty sure it's just a 2-person in each bedroom. Mm-hmm. So if it's just 115 gallons per day, there have been systems I've designed where, there was 7 cars in the driveway and a lot more than 4 people living in the house.
That's what I was going to ask. That was my main question. So even if I figured on 2 people, 3-bedroom, 2 people for bedroom, which would be 6 people in the property, would that system be sufficient enough, do you think, for that, or is there always a possibility they increase it to some degree? as well. They
Uh,
had concerns.
I don't think occupancy wise they'll they'll bend on that. Usually I could build the system, the drain field square footage a little higher if there's going to be, you know, anything there. I have to increase the capacity if there's garbage disposals, because that's sending solid food down to the tank. That slows the digestion down actually, because the organisms will eat that before it eats the solids. As for occupancy, they put a number on it where it's, you know, 115 gallons a day per bedroom, assuming 2 people per bedroom. So, you know, it could be up to 6 people for a 3-bedroom house. Like I said before, you know, if there's a teenager in there taking a 40-minute shower, you know, that's using 2 bedrooms worth of water in 1 shower. So, and then here, obviously everything's done. I'm going on from here. We submit the plan for approval. That's where you wait. You know, it could take a couple weeks. It's usually within 2 weeks, but I'm saying with how everyone's been busy, it's between 2 and 4 weeks. And then once it's approved, we could start construction. So we can get our plan in place. You know, order our tank, order our material. You know, get everything squared away. And then this is a system I did at Jamestown back in October. It was a 3-bedroom system. It was based on a high water table. So this system was actually pumped. We pumped everything up, and it was out of the ground about 2.5 feet. This was kind of a weird system I did. But I'll just explain it here. This is the drain field where the Elgins were going to go. I believe there was 34 Elgins I had to put in the ground here just because of the soil condition and everything else. So this is one of the inspections I did, or DEM required. I had to dig this drain field. Obviously, I put the soil on the left and right of this hole. I have to keep it clean and scarified, no footprints. They don't like to see footprints or anything in the bottom here. So, you know, you got to call the inspection in by 3 o'clock for the next day. So this was another thing I had to explain to the homeowner that, you know, I'm not going to be here tomorrow because I'm going to be waiting all day for DEM. I could go do something else. Obviously, I left my machine there, but I was on another job as well in Jamestown at this time. So this was the drain field that was ready for a bottom inspection, one of the 2 inspections that they require. So this system also required 3 feet of septic gravel, just because of the soils. It was a clay type soil, really bad drainage. So this right here adds some, you know, hydraulic pressure to it. So you could actually flood this system, and everything's going to be treated and discharged into the groundwater clean with this. This is more or less a filter as well. So it doesn't look like much, but this was about 320 yards of septic gravel I had brought in on this, just to bring it up to the elevation that we had to go. So the next slide here was the Elgins we built in. Looking at this, where these pipes are open, this is where the distribution box was, and it went out on the side. So we laid the mats out. 6 inch. We had to put 6 inches of sand above that. Lay these mats out. Install our piping, and then we had to cover the piping with some filter fabric and cover that with sand. And then this next one is the distribution box. So what this was a piped, this was a pump system. So there was a pump chamber that brought the wastewater up to this box, and this is where everything gets evenly dispersed into the field, equally on both sides. And then right here, obviously, was a 1,500-gallon septic tank. It was just a quick picture I took. I didn't take one of the plumbing in. I usually do. And that was the distribution box that I put over there. So we get the tank set in. Usually the tank's the first thing that goes in the ground, because If it's an occupied home, you obviously don't want to disrupt the homeowners. So this is usually the first step, but I dug that field out because it was a big area, and then we had the tank put in. And that's the first thing we get in because, like I said, you don't want to disrupt anybody from, being able to use their sink or their bathroom or anything. And then after the system was inspected, this was a cover. And like I said, this was 3 feet out of the ground. So I had to slope it. And it really, I don't even want to give the address, but you probably would drive by it and notice that I did this one because it sticks out of the ground that high. And then that's pretty much the process. This system took me about 10 days to do just because it was, we were dealing with rain, we were dealing with kind of weather and everything else. And then I got a question here. What's the difference between a pump chamber and a grinding pump? A pump chamber is beyond the septic tank. With this wastewater filter, the Zabel filter, the effluent filter, which is on the baffled side of the tank with the outlet side, that traps all solids and debris from going in to the drain field. So the pump chamber is more or less just a chamber of liquid. There's no solids in a pump chamber. A grinding pump is usually DEM doesn't like adding a grinding pump to a septic system. If you had, say, there was a basement bathroom that had to be lifted up, just because it grinds everything so small. A grinding pump, a lot of times are used in sewer work where it takes everything. It takes toilet paper, it'll take wipes, whatever you flushed on the toilet, and the solids and everything, and it will grind it to a pulp, which will send it down the line. So the difference between a pump chamber and a grinding pump is a pump chamber is just liquid only, just clear liquid, and a grinding pump takes the solids and everything that gets flushed down the line and turns it into a somewhat of a liquid, a slurry, more or less.
So the grinding pump is usually first down the line, and then it feeds into the pump chamber.
Yeah, there's a lot of, like I said, this is where if you had a basement bathroom that was being pumped up to a septic system, this is something you might want to take into consideration of adding more capacity to your septic tank or your drain field, because it's sending stuff that may get past your effluent filter. And then the next thing here is the certificate of construction and the certificate of conformance. Once you get a cover inspection, and you can cover your field and get everything cleaned up and finished with the job, it's my responsibility as a designer to draw a certificate of construction to submit to DEM. I have to do this within 5 days of the cover inspection. So what I do is I'll take a measurement off of 2 corners of the house, where the septic tank is, where the distribution box is, and where the drain field is, and what we have. And it's a quick little sketch I'll write down with the application number and everything else. And that is for a location, because all this work that we do, I build these systems all the time, and I look at it and I say, wow, that's really nice. And then I just bury it and I'll never see it again. So this certificate of construction is more or less a location. Unless the structure is moved, it's a solid location where you can measure where your distribution box is. If the fact is you have to expose it and service it, say it was a neglected system and solids got in, you want to inspect the distribution box, this certificate of construction will show you where your locations are. So like I said, I measure the swing ties off the corners of the house, draft a little letter, I'll submit it to DEM. My wife Danielle usually runs it down there for me because I'm on site, and DEM gets it. It's usually within 2 days they can draft the conformance letter. This is the big letter that you guys need for your closings. You can't close with a construction letter. You need to have that conformance letter from DEM. And they're usually within like I said, 48 hours. They're usually a quick turnaround on it. I mean, obviously, with the holiday coming up this weekend, if I had to submit one tomorrow, they may not conform it until Tuesday, until after the holiday. So um, that's the big thing there. That's the important thing, especially with closings, is just because they did a cover inspection and we submitted that day, and we're still working. We may see it the next day, but it may take 2 days to get that letter. And then anybody have any other questions? That's pretty much it on I broke it down as simple as I could on a conventional system. This is the process that I take. Like I said, it takes probably 2 to 4 weeks to get a plan back once we get everything established and tested and ready. The systems alone, I mean, I've done them as quick as 3 to 4 days, and sometimes it's taken, obviously we're dealing with the weather, we're dealing with, soil conditions. If there's rocks, you're not going to find everything there. There's a lot of times, there's speed bumps, unfortunately, that I'll come across all the time where whether, there's a piece of ledge, I have to move it's just, they all go smooth, but sometimes there are those speed bumps that that kind of set you back a day or two. The other thing, this is like open heart surgery on properties. I know I've done systems where it was a manicured lawn, and I've given the homeowners pretty much a heart attack just seeing me show up with an excavator and dig up all the grass that he's worked his whole life on. So it is very intrusive and invasive on the property. I try to keep it as clean as possible, but there are, trucks coming in, there's, cranes coming in to set tanks, equipment. There's a lot going on in a small amount of time.
Steve, it's a basic question. Let's go straightforward. What's flushable?
What's flushable?
Yep.
If you go on DEM's Septic Smart website, it's on a link on their thing. I think I might have something here. Anything, they talk about you could flush toilet paper, you could flush solids. I wouldn't, people say there's septic safe wipes. I would stay away from that, whether they say it or not. They don't decompose as well. And seeing it when we do these, when we open a tank, you'll see the wipes, you'll see the sanitary napkins, you'll see you'd be surprised what you see in a tank. I wouldn't flush a diaper, I wouldn't flush wipes. I would just keep it. If it's meant to go in a trash can, I would put it in a trash can. If it's I would just say whatever, waste and toilet paper. That's pretty much it.
That'll work.
The 3 Ps, yes.
Is there anything that could go down there, even on a liquid format, that might screw with the bacteria in any way?
Yes. There are fats, oils, and grease. Bacon fat. I wouldn't put any cooking grease down the line at all. That will create blockages. That slows the digestion down. I've been on an Elgin system where it only lasted 3 years because they put all their cooking grease down the line. Oil, obviously, if you're painting, I wouldn't, even if it's water-based, I wouldn't put any paint down. For instance, I did a system in North Kingstown 2 months ago. Connected the line to the tank. The very first flush the guy put down, it was red paint he put down the line. He was painting his house, and I knocked on his window and looked at him. I said, the first flush you put down here was paint. You can't do that. Wash it out in your driveway, in your yard. Yeah, so any fat, any oil, any grease, if it's not coming out of an appliance, I wouldn't put it down the system. As long as it's coming out of your appliances, whether it's a dishwasher, sink, toilet, I wouldn't put it in the system. I would keep it as clean as possible. The filter will stop solids, but it will not stop chemicals.
So I think that's one of the biggest factors anybody's thinking. You're thinking what goes down your toilet. Nobody's really thinking what they're washing down the sink at the same time.
Yeah, I wouldn't let I mean, the majority of the stuff in the sink would be cooking grease, and that's a big no-no. I wouldn't do that. And Ridex is good to use. It's not it's not a fail-safe, but it will increase the bacteria count. That's what Ridex is. It's just a bacteria put down the line, and hopefully that increases your digestion of the tank to break down the solids. The organisms in the tank will eat the solids. That's what you're flushing the Ridex is the organisms. I would keep I would keep on a pumping schedule. I know people say every other year. I tell people every year. It's a $230 to $400 expense, and it's a fail safe. Just make sure that filter's clean and pump the tank. I would do it, say April 1st every year. April Fool's Day, or pick a holiday. I wouldn't do it in the winter. I would do it more in the spring because the ground's not frozen.
The Krikorian team asked, I heard hair conditioners a no-no for septics.
Hair conditioners? I mean, it depends on what it is. I mean, if it's some of these shampoos and conditioners that are for like chemically treated hair for hair color, it's probably it'll be diluted enough. I mean, I don't think it'd be putting enough down the system to make a difference, but I would be mindful of it. I'd read on the back of the bottle exactly what it is, what it's made of. If it's for, like I said, to maintain a hair coloring or something, some treated hair, as long as it's diluted down, I don't think it would give a problem, but it may just do that.
So what do you think the standard would be the pump every year, but you think that using that extra bacteria on a yearly basis it can't hurt it, what you're saying?
It won't hurt it. A lot of people who do the Ridex, they'll put them into cesspools because, obviously they're trying to get it as much as they can out of what they have. It wouldn't hurt. I mean, the best thing to do is probably just read the directions on the box to make sure you're not over applying the Ridex, or even if you searched DEM's website, they may have something on Ridex there.
And you told me previously we were speaking that the thought is to take the filter out every 6 months and sort of clean it out to some degree.
I wouldn't say 6 months. I'd say if you do your tank annually, I would have them pull the filter and clean it out. It's a plastic filter. It sits right in the T on the outlet side of the tank. It's a fail safe, like I said. It prevents the solids from going into the distribution box and the drain field. So if there's 6 months, it takes a while for the solids to actually build up. If you're getting solids every 6 months into a filter, then you might want to start saving for a new system. I would say once a year would be a good time to clean the filter. Every time you pump the tank, or hose the filter out or replace the filter.
I have one more question of my own personally. So when you're doing or drawing these plans up, how does the DEM look into, like, say, a body of water? So something that might be on a reservoir, on a river, on the ocean, even to some degree. How far do they usually have to set it aside?
There's setbacks. There's critical resource areas that they have established. A lot of it is all the coastal areas. There's a big majority of the Slocum area of North Kingstown and Exeter that is a watershed directly to the Narrow River. It's all what I mean. A lot of the times, when somebody calls me, I look at the address automatically, and then I'll look at the critical resource map. That tells you exactly where. It's very there's some areas that I've done work where I wasn't expecting a alternative system. I was figuring to put a conventional system in, and they were dead set in the critical area, and they've had to do these advanced systems, these Advantech systems, and the bottomless sand systems. And what would you estimate an average system cost to replace from design to install? Based on a 3-bedroom system, it depends. There's variables, obviously. What type of soil am I digging in? Is it clear soil? Is it rocky soil? Is it ledge? There's a lot of things I have to take into factor. Is it a tight lot? Do I have the room? A lot of times, if it's a wide open area, for instance, if I looked at a house where I had no obstructions, no issues getting equipment in and out, and a 3-bedroom system, from the soil test to the design and install, you're looking closer, probably around $15,000 right now. Obviously, there's an increase in material price from the market. It hasn't affected our side yet. Lumber side, it's 50% more. The PVC side of my purchases, they are saying that a lot of the resin is getting hard to come by to make this pipe. So if there was no nothing concerning where like I had to climb over walls or obviously, like I mentioned before, manicured lawn, they want me to put it back the way it is. It's going to cost a little more money, but a normal 3-bedroom repair, in and out, where I'm leaving just a topsoil, no grass seed, we're right around the $15,000 mark, and that's pumping the existing system out, abandoning it. That's another thing too. If we have to abandon the system or put a system in place of where there was a drain field, if the soil is saturated, I can't just go dump that anywhere. I have to go dispose of that at the landfill. So that's, as long as I'm digging a clean area, we're around the $15,000 mark. But everything's broken down in an estimate if I were to come across certain things.
Do you have any other questions? Well, Bob, I want to thank you immensely for your presentation. It was very informative. As you said, I am going to be purchasing a house for myself with the septic when I've never had that capability before.
Mm-hmm.
That utility. Bob's information is right here on the screen. As always, these are recorded, so if anybody would like to access this again, we've also shared it through the site for the Kent Washington site as well. Bob, thank you for your time and your expertise. It was very informative.
And I'd like to thank you guys for having me. It was great to be here. This is my email address and my cell phone. Like I said, email me anytime. You can call me or text me, and I'm not that far away. So thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, Bob.
Have a good day.
And everybody else, thank you for attending as well. This is put on through the Kent Washington Association of Realtors Education Board, of which I'm a member, as well as Paul Culp, he's in my top corner anyway. We are always looking for new members and ideas for the presentations. We try to put on lunch and learns once a month throughout the year, some continuing education, some not, but we look forward to anything that you may have that you are looking forward to learning about or even help us participate in. Look forward to it. Thank you very much for everybody. And I